Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the scheduled meetings of the Township Council, established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designated the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We are using electronic amplifying and recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record, and request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly into the microphone. The recording device will be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's office and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Hutchison?
Present.
Mr. Owens?
Present.
Mrs. Stubbs? Present. Mrs. Winters? Here. Mr. Mignon?
Here.
Mrs. Trotta? Here. Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Lechner?
Here.
Chief Earl? Mr. Carlinier?
Here.
Mr. Cardis?
Here. We'll have our first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll close the first public portion. Proclamation.
Whereas the Township of Gloucester encourages the use of bicycles as means of viable transportation, and whereas the Township of Gloucester has made tremendous progress in its infrastructure with regards to the township bike paths, a multi-phase project and addition of the Gloucester Township Bike Share Program. And whereas the Township of Gloucester promotes and fully supports the use of bicycles in assisting to reduce traffic congestion and noise, in decreasing the use of and dependence upon energy sources, and promoting healthy habits and exercise for the residents of the township. And whereas the Township of Gloucester is committed to provide a safe and friendlier space for people traveling on two wheels. And whereas the Ride of Silence, a slow-paced bicycle ride to honor those injured or killed while cycling on public roadways, began as a one-time event to honor our fallen bicyclists, is now an international phenomenon occurring globally as a quiet call to the public announcing that bicycle safety is the responsibility of all users of public roads. And whereas the League of American Bicyclists has established May as National Bicycle Month, and the Mayor establishes May as Bicycle Safety Month, which includes the Ride of Silence on the 16th of May, 2018. And whereas the Township of Gloucester proudly supports the Ride of Silence, now therefore be it resolved, David Mayer, Mayor of the Township of Gloucester, do hereby recognize the Ride of Silence as an event to remind all residents to recognize that bicycles belong on public roadways, and as motorists to commit to safety sharing our roadways with cyclists.
We have a special guest today that'd like to speak regarding this proclamation and the Ride of Silence. Ms. Kane, if you can come up to the microphone, please.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Township, Chief Earl and his department, the Mayor, and the Council for their continued support. My name is Debbie Kane, and I'm the Worldwide Ride of Silence Secretary, the New Jersey State Coordinator, as well as a team member of the Peddler Shop Cycling Club. The Ride of Silence is a 501c3 nonprofit charity that honors cyclists worldwide who have been killed or injured while cycling. Last year, the Ride of Silence held 445 confirmed locations, which included all 50 states and the District of Columbia, 48 countries, and all 7 continents. It was a pleasure having the members of the Gloucester Township Police Unity Tour team participate and support the organization as they have in the past several years. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but hundreds of cyclists are killed or injured each year. This worldwide ride is to honor those who have been killed or injured. Motorists do not realize how fast a cyclist can pedal, and therefore can try to beat a cyclist so that they are not slowed down. The average motorist does not look into their mirrors before they turn to see that the cyclist they just passed is now upon them and turn into them while the cyclist going straight has the right of way. With that in mind, we do not only have to worry about constantly being aware of traffic and worry about getting hit, we also have to worry about distracted drivers or drivers being under the influence. Motorists are also ill-informed about cycling laws that they need to share the road. At times, we get yelled at and have things thrown at us. I'm grateful that the state of New Jersey has recently passed a law that people taking the written portion of the driver's test will also learn about cycling laws. They will learn that cyclists must ride in the same directions as motorists and have the same rights as a motorist. The bicycles are considered vehicles. These new drivers will also learn why cyclists need to take the lane to make a left-hand turn or to come out into the road due to hazards on the side of the road. We have the right to ride on the road, and it is legal to ride on sidewalks. The ride of silence is open to everyone. The ride is free. The only requirement is that you have a bike in working order and you must wear a helmet. So please join me, fellow cyclists, and members of families who have lost loved ones on this monumental ride. The ride will be at the Gloucester Township Community Park this Wednesday, and please arrive by 6:30. We'll be riding at 7. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. Bid report.
2018 hook lift truck, 2018 25 cubic yard leaf machine, 2018 Ford F550 four-wheel drive dump truck, and new chassis with stand-up right-hand drive.
I entertain a motion to accept the bid report.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next, we have our consent agenda. I entertain a motion, to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Thank you, Ms. Stubbs. On the question, before we get that, just a few things I wanted to bring out. There's a couple items that are inserted into the budget that are grants that support our police officers with bulletproof vests. Also, there's a grant for the bike path included there, Resolution 121. And also there is a $90,000 from the Attorney General's office regarding that funds a partial salary for police officers here in Gloucester Township. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. On the question, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. We have a discussion item here regarding 54 West Lake Avenue. We have a gentleman who has appeared before us at our workshop, and we did not have a workshop this last week. So, Mr. Goodwin, if you can approach the microphone, we'll have a brief discussion. How are you today?
Very good. How's everybody?
A quick question. Have you provided the updated information to the solicitor's office?
I provided to Mr. Colomer's office, and I was informed that that had been forwarded along.
Mr. Carter, does that suffice?
There's a survey that he presented by Donovan Surveyors dated April 3rd, 2018. I think all council members have that show the intended planting of the shrubs and shows the easement stone driveway area as well as his property line. You should also, at least in my file, was an old survey from 11/29/17 that showed the unimproved East Railroad Avenue that was apparently was vacated, and that falls on the house side of that proposed easement driveway that he's asking for, which in a sense moves his property line probably about 4 to 8 feet, I would suppose.
Something to that nature.
So that brings his property line probably out here somewhere.
Okay.
But
So-
that's the updated information.
And we can move forward with this easement?
Yes,
Agree on
yes.
that?
If everyone is inclined to do that, it shows that the whole entire proposed, it's a 40-foot wide easement area. That's all property owned by the township. If you see, the frame building shows the front going towards the southerly direction, I would imagine, southwest, where the little steps are.
Yes.
That's the front of the house. That shows how close his property line is to the front of the house. And then all the frontage that he has on the side street there. He's asking for an easement on the entire 40-foot area.
You want to add anything to that, Mr. Goodwin?
No, the only question I have is how long do I have to put the bushes in? I have to contact my grower.
I would imagine some of the things that you should address, and I don't recall if you had an opportunity to address it at the work agenda, why you need the swing of the stone driveway, the whole 40-foot. Is that already bituminous pavement and all that? Or
Yes.
can that driveway be moved closer to the home rather than have it circulate all the way out to the end of the easement area?
The reason for the survey in its manner, what it was, I just had the surveyor line up on the existing tarmac on, it would be Railroad Avenue. So if you line up coming down where the tarmac of the street ends and the grass, the park begins, and just line up straight on down, it was a straight line.
Because this survey of 18 shows where East Railroad Avenue ends. And if you extend that line, it would show how that East Railroad Avenue continued forward. So I guess there's some question as to, you'd have to, should establish to Council White the easement should be the extent that it is.
It just lines up right on the edge of the driveway apron that was put in by the township some years ago. I don't know when the township put the driveway apron in, and it was just lined up that way by the surveyor.
So if council, you should have a packet of this, but if you want to circulate what I have, shows the apron that he is speaking of with the.
We don't have the packet, we just have the.
I have two photographs attached with, maybe you can just send it down, shows the apron that he was speaking.
Yeah, I think we saw the pictures before.
Do you have it in your packet towards the end?
No.
This is the original, this is from November.
Dave was putting that by us, correct? Yeah. Yeah, well, huh?
I think the gentleman gave his reasons why he needs the extent of the easement that he desires. I believe he's in agreement to put the shrub area, screens it, also cuts it off for any other use. So the council should be aware of that, it's township property, and you're granting an easement, which is only an easement for ingress, egress, and I would imagine it's going to result in some parking along that area. Putting the shrub, I understood the importance of that when we talked at the work meeting, but understanding that that's going to cut off access to that area, it'll be used strictly for the purpose of the property owner for the easement. Township residents won't have access to it because you're actually defining it and cutting it off by the shrubs. I mean, so that you're aware, you have the authority to grant the easement that's being requested upon the reasons that the property owner has shown, but you should understand what you're doing by creating the shrubs as they exist.
Understood. Is there a timeline that we could provide Mr. Goodwin for the planting of those shrubs?
I would tend to think whatever the season is, I would tend to think now.
Yes, I spoke with my landscaper, and he told me that he would have to speak with the grower. I gave 2 different types of species of plants, and it just depends on what's available at the grower at that time. So I would expect within the next month, I should be able to have them in.
The form of the easement that's drawn should define legal description, which your Donovan can provide the meets and bounds description for the easement area. Your property area becomes the benefit of that easement. It should indicate that your responsibility is to maintain it. It can define that the shrubs have to be in within 60 days of the signing of the easement, for example, and you have a responsibility of maintaining the shrubbery, or at least the property owner. So if you're no longer the property owner has to sign the easement.
Which is correct. I am no longer the property owner. I've since sold the property, and the owner is currently with us today.
So the easement will be given to the property owner, but once the easement is recorded, my sense is the way it's being asked becomes a permanent easement that runs with the land. It's not a time limit easement. You can grant a time limit easement, but I don't think that is the purpose you're asking for. So it becomes a permanent easement that runs with the land to the property owner.
That's my understanding, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley. So, Mr. Carmer, is that something you can draw up and Mr. Goodwin or the new property owner can sign off on?
Sure. If I'll need
If we approve this easement?
If you approve the easement, I'll need full information from the property owner, who's entitled, who's on their deed for this property. Both those individuals will be signing off on it. One individual will be one. I can draft the language. You'll have to ask Donovan to give me a meets and bounds description of the easement area. And then also, I guess we have a lot and block designation of the property owner. That's all we'll need for that. But we'll need the easement described, meets and bounds description.
Okay.
And Mr. Goodwin, is the new property owner aware that they have to plant these new shrubs?
I am the one that is taking responsibility for planting the shrubs. If you remember last time we spoke, I wasn't sure if this situation would be resolved prior to or before I sold the property. And I said if I sold the property prior to this being taken care of, I would take on the responsibility of planting it, which I intend to do.
So we'll make sure that language is in that easement agreement as well.
We can indicate that, but the party that would be bound by installing that would be the property owner. The agreement between the property owner and yourself is between the two of you. The agreement will have to bind the property owners to what their responsibility is, which will be to do the plantings.
Understood.
Well, I think you need a motion to do a resolution authorizing the granting of the easement as presented to the benefit of block 11604, lot 1. I'll make that motion.
You make that motion to entertain an easement to the benefit of block 11604, lot 1, also known as 54 Westlake Avenue. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Winters. On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mignone?
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Goodwin.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Contact the surveyor and ask to provide a meets and bounds description for the easement area.
Call in tomorrow. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next, we have a GTE Gov Access email. Mr. Heimball, you sent us an email. Do you want to ask us, or do you want me to just read your email?
Please go ahead and answer.
Okay. So this is from Peter Heimball from 2 Morningstar Court, Sicklerville, New Jersey. Question for council. From the 5/14/2018 bill list, please explain the details of the services provided by Bach Associates on invoice number 19745 in the amount of $13,431 charged to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So back in 2015, there was a resolution by Township Council authorizing the signing of a municipal shared services agreement. This was it's called Municipal Shared Services Defense Agreement for retaining an expert dealing with Council on Affordable Housing, COA. COA laws, and when the Supreme Court basically blew up COA, municipalities joined in this shared service agreement. Mr. Carmer, do you want to take over?
Yes, on the Supreme Court decision that came out in New Jersey in I believe it was around May of 2015, that's the period of time that the COA as an administrative agency or arm of the state kind of became non-functional. Through litigation, the Supreme Court directed that the courts in the state of New Jersey, superior courts, would have jurisdiction over each municipalities within their vicinage, responsibility for coming up with a fair share plan. Any town that has participated in the past, as Gloucester Township has, with round 1 certification, round 2 certification, and the application for the 3rd round certification when COA really failed, come up with rules to approve each municipality. The courts, that's the area that the courts took over. We were required to file a declaratory action with the state of New Jersey by July of 2015. We affirmatively filed a declaratory judgment action in Superior Court in Camden on July 7, 2015. As part of that filing, we had to show the courts that we were able to provide a realistic opportunity for our fair share low and moderate income affordable housing. We appointed Stephen Bach Associates as our expert to assist us, and he's been working diligently with the township through myself as the attorney that was assigned to the litigation. I can tell you, I haven't looked at the voucher, but on May 9th, we spent a full day in court before Judge Famular presenting our fair share settlement plan, which has been participated in with the Fair Share Housing Center, which is a major player in the litigation, and is signing off on that as well as other parties. We have another court date scheduled in June, but he's our expert. He's been doing a fabulous job.
Thank you. Now we'll open up the second public portion. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Yes, sir. Mr. Hamlin. Sir. Mr. Hamlin, yes. Mr. Halpin.
Name's Matt Halpern. Did you want my address?
Yes, please.
516 Pasadena Drive. It's Pasadena and Malibu, Magnolia. It's the post office, but it's Gloucester Township is the home. So my problem here in the last 2.5 years, which has gotten worse, are the unsolicited vendors that come to the community. It's gotten to the point where in the last week of April alone, I had 7 unsolicited vendors showed up. None of them had identification. They didn't have the permit, and I don't know who they are, and it shouldn't be allowed. I called the mayor last year. We went through this. I didn't know what the Gloucester Township code book had, but I have it in front of me, which is 18 pages of this. Your township, according to your secretary, Nancy Powers, you only have 5 registered vendors. That's about average, and according to this, they have the fees, and the yearly fee is approximately $400. So you are collecting $2,000 a year from these 5 companies. Last year, between April and October, I had averaged about 2 a week with these guys that come in. This year, since the beginning of April, it averaged about 3 to 5. Last week in April, it was 7. So the incident was to call at the end of that week. I called the police and called 911, and the operator said, "What is your problem?" And I explained it. It's a non-priority. Call the general number. Call the general number. We'll send somebody out. I told them what it was. I told them that I had 2 people who come to the door without the proper permit and no identification. They're evasive on every question that I asked them. Do you have a business card? No. Do you have any other identification? It's in the van. We don't have the permit, but the company has it. Now, if you look at the situation, also, the police didn't show up for 2 hours, at least they didn't come. That past week, I had True Lawn come in once. I had Power Window come in once. I had Renewal Anderson Windows come in twice. 2 different people showed up. And the last one was Home Start. I explained it, and I was told by the police, this is what you can do. You can call us and we'll send somebody out. But if you don't see them, they'll get in the car and leave. What can you do? Well, there's nothing we can really do. Well, I then went to Magnolia Police. Do you have a system here? You have the permit system? Yes, we do. The same thing as Gloucester Township, but we're smaller. And it happened to come up with this power siding and window is the worst. They don't get the permit. They get a permit for a very short period of time, and what they do is they get 1 or 2 jobs and they pay the citation fee, and that's it. I went to Somerdale and I went to Stratford. Talked to the chief of police. He came out and he was able to talk to me with no problem, and I explained it where I lived. He says, we absolutely do not have any permits. We don't allow solicitation. Well, what do you do when these people come in from Texas, from Georgia? They come in from North Carolina. They come in from Delaware. They come in from Maryland now. So he said, we get citations from them immediately, and we usually will bring them in, and then we get the information, and we usually find them. I called Somerdale, I called Stratford, I went over there, same thing, they have the permit. I went to Voorhees, and I said, you're as big in Voorhees as the size, let me have it here, in size. Let me see, I have the exact thing here, hold on a second. The size of Gloucester Township is 23.6 square miles. The size of Deptford is 17.61. The size of Cherry Hill is 24.24 square miles. The size of Voorhees is 11.64. Voorhees told me that they consider that a priority call, not secondary. You can call 911, they send somebody out, and it is a felony. Once they catch the people, they're out there almost immediately because it's usually private citizens, senior citizens. Now, here's the situation. I was told by the police, you don't answer the door. If you do, lock the storm door. Ask them, do they have a permit? No. Then I'm going to call the police. The last person out was Homestar. When you say that to them, they get confrontational. I don't need that abuse. Did the police come out? I was on the phone. No, they did not. Then I decided I went and asked the suggestions from Stratford, Voorhees, police department. What do they do? As an individual, what should you do? If you have 2 people coming up to your door, you can either not answer the door, be afraid now to approach the door, and now there's a possibility that they might have a gun, they might have a knife, they could break in. Now it can become another situation. Do I know that? No. Here's what I was told, and that's why I called your lawyer, who's sitting over here 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Should I put a no salesman sign on my door saying no salesman, do not knock, no trespassing? I have the original transcript when your ordinance on Chapter 58 went into effect in 1960 online. I have how your council decided to initiate this original Gloucester Township Code, which is hawkers, peddlers, canvassers, and solicitors, Chapter 58. The same sort of problem occurred in 1960. You've amended it 3 times. Right now, in the ordinance, you have an exemption for Girl Scout who sell cookies in this area. There isn't one Girl Scout that's going to go home to home. Not one. And anywhere in the United States. It's dated. You're not going to happen. How am I supposed to protect myself here? Last year, according to the FBI statistics, if you want to see it, I have it here. Gloucester Township in New Jersey now has the highest crime rate on property. The crime report for 2018 says you now have the highest. In 2016, the city violent crime, and now this is based on the FBI crime statistics, in Gloucester Township was lower in violent crime in New Jersey by 44%. However, the city property crime rate in Gloucester Township was the highest property crime rate in New Jersey by 5.66. These people that are coming up now, I don't know who they are, where they're coming from. I don't know what their motives are. But last year in this community where I have to live, burglaries were 171. Larceny and theft, 822. These people are allowed to come in and they can survey the neighborhood, they can check the properties, they know whether you're home or not. Murder and manslaughter, you now have the highest murder and manslaughter rate of all the communities in South Jersey. That's every one. You now have the highest murder and manslaughter rate. Rape, I don't know if it's coming because of these people, I don't know. But you had 8 last year, and you had 23 robberies, and the property crime was the highest in all of New Jersey, 1,036.
Mr. Halford.
Yes. So now on my door, this is my important one.
Mr. Halford.
Wait a minute, let me finish. I have my thought going. I have
Mr. Halpern.
Yes.
You're allotted 5 minutes of time. You've gone a little bit over, and that's fine. So you have an issue with our hawkers, vendors, and canvassers.
Yes, I want it to be amended to the point where there is to be no solicitation in this community whatsoever. If there's unsolicited vendors, and that includes the people who are distributing these brochures as a third party for a lot of these contractors, the police should see these people, and you should put into the code a very high penalty rate for these people, financial penalty, and you also have it as a criminal offense. You have it in the ordinance. I can read it to you, and that's in there. And that should also, for unsolicited vendors, yes, you should have that authority, because what you're doing, because of these crime rates, and because of so many vendors coming in, and you do not go out there, and you, at least in my case, you don't come to the house, ever. So I put the sign up saying, no salesman, do not knock, no trespassing. That immediately, if you enter my property, you don't have to come to the door, that is criminal trespass according to the New Jersey Code and according to the ordinance under handbills for Gloucester Township. And I asked this to all the other police departments I talked to. They said, yes, you post a sign, it's a criminal offense. And also, when you call the police and you have 2 people approaching the house, and they always double team, there are 2 people approaching the house, I feel that is a threat, and that is a priority call under 911. And when I called 428 to the police department on 911, they never they showed up 2 hours later, and they said it's only an ordinance offense when there's nothing we can do except write them a ticket. If we can find them, we couldn't find them after 2 hours. I said, so during the month of April alone, I have averaged 3 to 5 unsolicited vendors each of those weeks, and the last week of April was 7 of them. I shouldn't be subject to this. There should be an ordinance that says they're not supposed to, and also you should be putting up a sign instead of welcome to Gloucester Township, thank you for visiting Gloucester Township. Every sign you should be putting up is solicitation by permit only or no solicitation, and you should put the code under that. There's other communities that do have that. And if you're going to put thank you for visiting, to me that's just soliciting criminals. Come in the neighborhood, look around, you're not going to do anything to you anyway, but just take a look at the community. Now it's gotten worse, and I think with the number of statistics in crime here, with robberies and burglaries, I think there's something to be said about this, and it's to be taken seriously.
Mr. Halpern, that's a lot of information you provided us today. Mr. Carlin provided you his card prior to our council meeting. And I would suggest if you'd like to come back to our workshop meeting, which is the first Monday in June, and we can discuss this further.
No, I don't want to. I'll go to the next. I was going to bring in a written an amendment, and what I want to do is submit at the next meeting a formal amendment to get rid of this hawkers and whatever, Chapter 58, to get rid of all solicitors. And since there's only 5 registered ones, the rest are all unsolicited vendors, and they're not registered. And I wanted to get rid of it. And so I'm going to bring in an amendment next month, have a formal amendment quoting and what I want to do in each of the articles, and then submit that to you, and then have this thing repealed and submitted with an unsolicitation amendment. And then I would like to have posted throughout this community no solicitation. and then put the code on that.
Mr. Halperin?
Yes.
I think you would be better served if you attended our workshop with that information.
Why?
That's when we have we have an opportunity to speak more about it. We can talk about, we can take a look at the code and the ordinance and discuss your issues where you're not limited in the time constraint. Because this is more of a formal meeting.
No, I understand that,
Mr.
but
Halperin-
you do have an administration.
Mr. Halperin, may I finish? But I would suggest that you come back to our workshop. You have to also have Mr. Carlemare's information there, and our workshop is the first Monday in June. So I thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Ms. Grace.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Carolyn Grace, Hampshire Road in Brittany Woods. Got a few things, comments, and a couple questions and information to give. We've been at this for 3 years, almost. In August of 2018, we're going to be working, myself and Shirley and some other community members, and trying to really turn Brittany Woods around. Just a few things that you might not know is that we have 49, well, in August, have 49 new mailboxes in, and I want to thank Councilwoman Michelle Winters, and who else was out there? Yes, installing mailboxes for us on our Clean Community Day, which was last Saturday. It went really, really well, and if you don't know, I'm sure you know because I emailed you. It was filmed, so we're looking forward to that. I think they said they wanted to air it on the 24th, but now they're going to air it on the 17th, but we're still waiting for that date, so hopefully you'll all watch that. I have a couple questions. How do we know how many vacant houses are left in our community? Because when I moved back there, I think there were more than 40 vacant homes, and now it looks about 3 or 4 left, and I don't really know. I want to know how I find out what's still vacant in our community. That's one question.
That information to share with community development, vacant homes.
From through Champion, we should be able to get a list of who they have, and I don't know how readily available it is through Champion. If they monitor the mortgage holders, really, of the abandoned properties.
Champion is the vendor that identifies the vacant home, who owns the vacant home. So if there's an issue with that particular property, let's say they're not cutting the grass, or there's broken windows, or it's a disrepair, that they can contact them, and they can identify it for them, and we can have dialogue with that property owner.
Okay.
Tom, is it possible you can get something, an update from Champion regarding that particular neighborhood?
Okay. We're running out of ideas. We had, thank you for that, and we had a lot of support from the children of Brittany Woods, and that's going to really look great in the new special. They're great. It's the adults we can't rally, and we don't know what to do anymore about that, so I guess we're really kind of leaning now towards code enforcement, and we don't really know what to do but it looks so much better. I'm sitting out in my front yard now. That's the first time I've done that, and since I've been there, I've been back 3 years almost, and I sat for 2 hours enjoying a glass of lemonade. I even brought myself some new wicker chairs and sat out there and enjoyed myself. So that's a combination of everybody. So I think Chief Earl and the mayor and Recreation and Public Works, everybody did everything they can do to help this community, and I don't know where else we can go at this point. I really don't. Shirley might have some ideas, so she'll probably come up and talk after I do. We also had a major issue with our electric charges in our community. We had a meeting. Several people came out and sat in Panera Breads, and they had electric bills from $700 to $1,000 for 1 month. Most of us actually went to utility commissioner because even I had a $550 electric bill, and I'm only one person in the house, and I'm never home. So I had to file a complaint with that, and they're following up on that. But I just wanted to see if you all are aware of the concerns, because we have talked to our neighbors, and a lot of them just have these enormous electric bills and they don't know why.
I was not aware of that, but is that neighborhood, is it all electric?
It's all electric, but even if you ran it, I've owned that house for 30 years. If you ran it all day, it shouldn't even go over 400. It's 1,200 square feet.
So this
I don't
is
know.
something that's out of the norm. Ms. Shirley, you've been there for 30 plus years. Is this something, it's just a tremendous spike in the electric bills for all residents
Are you
there?
asking me this question?
Yeah, I asked you, yes.
Are you want to tag team you?
No. But,
No, but yes, for me, I've been on the budget
Okay.
since 1983.
okay, so you have an equal payment plan.
Okay, and anything over and above, they have the winter rates and they have the summer rates. So anything that's over your budget come June to September, they will increase your budget to cover that amount. But as far as like Carol was saying, the bills that we were seeing, I don't know how the people are surviving. I mean, $1,000. One lady had an electric bill for $6,098.03, and she has a 2-bedroom townhouse, and she works all day.
Have you, Carolyn, you received a response back from Board of Public Utilities?
On the 18th, they're going to take my box. I'm going to go. They said I can come, so they're going to test my box. But I know I'm 550 now. When I monitored my electric bill for the month, I monitored it every day based on the rate that they say, which is 10 cents per kilowatt, and I just watched it every day. I went from using 1,500 kilowatts to 600 kilowatts. Same habits, same. Only thing that I did different was I shut my heat off through my circuit box. That's the only thing I did different. But I didn't have any of the heating elements in the house on at any point. So, and it's a lot of, one household, persons living in Brittany Woods, a lot of single women that are in my position. They're just working, doing what they need to do, and they're not home a lot, and they have had those same type of electric bills, and so we kind of collaborated and figured out what to do. So I don't know if it's something in the house or if it's something in the box, but I have a new box, so I don't even know why mine spiked like that. So
I have a question. Only because I saw a spike in my electric bill. But when I had spoke to the electric company, and I was going to ask maybe we could get a customer service rep to come out and talk about, as in a meeting type format, to talk about how to reduce, because they talked about Alexa, charging phones, charging computers, things that we don't think about that raise our electric.
we asked them to come out, they wouldn't come out.
So,
One step ahead, we did. We asked them, they wouldn't come out. They just would talk to us separately on the phone. Some of us would, two-way call, but they said they weren't coming out. And our meeting was on a Saturday anyway, but it was a good idea. We did present that to them, but they didn't. They said they can't do that. I think they feel like they'll be attacked or whatever, but we just wanted, same thing, we just wanted some suggestions like that.
Carolyn, please share with us, the outcome of this. Because even in other parts of the community, I've seen people have posted online that they've seen a spike in their gas bill. I keep my home pretty frigid.
Me too, I do. I'm the same way. I don't need heat.
Yeah.
So I was actually shocked because I actually wasn't at home during the time of that break. I was actually in Virginia, so when I came back, because I'm a school district, so when I came back and had that spike, I was actually very shocked. But to even hear some other people struggle like that, and they got 2 and 3 jobs, and they have $700, $800 electric bill, as a social worker, I'm gonna just get involved and try to advocate on their behalf, because that's a lot of money for those small town homes. So that was an issue that we did bring that to the mayor.
You have anything else?
I do. I have one more thing, and I also brought this to the mayor, and I don't know where this is going to land, but I know you guys paved or approved the pavement of Hampshire Road, And so everybody said, okay, you know, you're so busy worrying about Hampshire, you must be, you know, getting things done for yourself, because you live on Hampshire, what about the rest of us? So I said I would bring it up, and so there's people in Berkshire and Wilshire, their roads still have not been paved, and they want the same treatment that Hampshire got. So I don't know when that'll happen, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you again. I hope that special turns out great.
Anyone else? Pete? Miss Shirley? Okay.
Thanks for calling me out. I was trying to turn this cell phone off. Speaking about the electric bills, when I had called Millennium Services, that is hired to read everybody's meters, which Carol didn't I tell you, what we did after we had our meeting at Panera Bread, we had people, you know, sitting out at 6:45 until 4:30 looking for the meter man to come to read the meter, and he never came.
So there were estimates they're providing?
I guess that's what it was. And when I called, for me, I call the Atlantic City Electric on anything that they do that's out of the norm. So when I did call them and talk to them, they said, well, ma'am, he said he was out there. And I said, this is our front door, the meter's right here. I said, and I'm sitting right there. He did not come all day. And everybody on the 5, 6 streets in Brittany Woods that Carol and I, you know, asked them to sit out, and they did, you know, watching for the meter man. One lady said, I did see somebody fly by my house, you know, on our front lawns. Other than that, no one's seen anybody come read the meters. So I think, like, their estimates, plus a lot of the people that live there, the meters are really, 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 really old. So, and the color of the meter is like a yellow, reminds you of the color of lemon. It used to be clear, but now it's just like the lemon color. So how can you read the meter? And I couldn't even see it. The only reason why I got my meter changed is because when I came in it was cracked. I didn't even know that the casing was glass. I thought it was plastic. And when the guy came out, he replaced it, and I looked at it. And I said, how are they seeing the numbers? You can't even see through this stuff. He said, ma'am, I don't know. I'm just here to change the meter. But a lot of the townhomes in Brittany Woods, those meters have been there since 1979. And you cannot see. There's no way that you can have a handheld electronic device and be able to read it. There's no way. But like, you know, Carol and I said, you know, we have a lot of renters in our neighborhood, you know what I mean? And I think the landlord should be more responsible for these things, you know what I mean? But at the same time, we couldn't get any information from Millennium at all. You know, and this mysterious guy who comes around and reads the meter, and all these people have these astronomical bills. I mean, I was sitting in Panera Bread, like almost very, very upset, like, wow, I would die. I mean, like, not literally, but you get a bill for $1,000, and you have a 2-bedroom townhouse when it's less than 1,200 square feet, and people are actually turning off their electric in the wintertime, that real cold time we had in the wintertime. They were turning off their heat. That means your pipe's going to freeze. And we're sitting, Carol and I are sitting there like, oh my gosh, this is so sad, just to survive. So something's wrong with the people you hired, Millennium Services, LLC, to read our meters? Because they read them for all.
Excuse me, that we hire? We don't
Yeah,
hire
yeah.
the meter readers.
Yes, you did.
No, we don't.
Yes, you did.
Well, the Atlantic City Electric contract?
They said that it was hired by the township. That's what Atlantic City Electric told us. And I have called like at least 10 times. I have all the
Mr.
notes.
Cardis, we don't hire meter readers.
Well, they told a story on
Yes, they
township.
did.
And all this time, I think that thought it was you guys, like they had a contract with you, because this is what Atlantic City Electric has said.
No, it's not correct.
So we have to make sure we let our residents know it's not Gloucester Township.
Thank
It's
you.
something that they do for everybody, not just you guys. But other than that, I would like to get some information back from code enforcement on how they were doing with our list that we gave them, and we had a meeting with them as well. You know, as far as the abandoned houses and, you know, how they're going about making sure they're all cleaned up. And was there anything that we can do, or could we get code enforcement to help us out, or give us ideas about people who you can't see in their backyards? but we get complaints from neighbors who live next door to people who have trash in their backyards that is beyond ridiculous. So code enforcement, I don't know whether they can go in people's backyards if there's a complaint or not. I don't know how that works.
Chief, is code enforcement permitted to go into a backyard?
It's, they could view over the fence if they have cause. That's what we've done in the past.
Right.
If they can see, but I know Ms. Shirley's concerned. I think it's some of those, getting to those backyards,
Is a
some may not be possible.
Yeah, and the landlords really need, like Carol asked for the list. We would love to have that list, or find out a way that the township can get involved with these landlords. Because we talk to people, because we had National Night Out, we've done all these things, we're trying to communicate more, and people are coming to Carol and I asking for advice. Like this one lady, like the gutter is hanging, it's actually hanging across her front door, but the landlord won't fix it. He said, you have to fix it. The landlords that are renting, that's all they're doing. They only visit like they said, they only visit when it's time to pay rent. And the rent is like $1,000, $1,200, $1,500. But the houses look like crap. And Carol and I and the kids, and some of the neighbors, we're walking around cleaning up the landlord's property for him. It's got to stop. So we would like it if you guys would help us find out who the landlords are, or is there anything that we can do to reach out to them, because we have a lot of landlords, absentee landlords.
Agreed.
And it's defeating our purpose of clean community.
Ms. Shirley, all that information is public information. It's on the tax assessor's website, on the township's website. You can put a punch in address and you can find out who the property owner is for any of those
But we can't write them letters.
You can report them to code enforcement.
Okay. All right, I can do that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Sorry about the phone.
No problem. Mr. Heimball?
Pete Heimball, Morningstar Court.
Good evening, Pete.
Good evening. So the Fair Housing Court appearance went on as scheduled last week. Is that what I heard in part of your
Hearing
response?
was a full day. We did not complete, so it was May 9th. Judge rescheduled, with everyone's scheduled for June 5th, I believe.
June 5th. So there was no final agreement reached last week?
Well, we were at our hearing, but our hearing posture has been presenting a proposed settlement. Fair Share Housing Center has entered into an agreement with the Township of Gloucester and the one property owner who has intervened in the action. We've all signed off on it, and our testimony is centering around our settlement proposal, showing that that's a realistic opportunity for the township to meet its low, moderate income affordable housing.
Okay, and what was that date in June again? I'm sorry?
June 5th.
June 5th, okay. Thank you. Another question. I saw it advertised this week that Gloucester Township received the Community Development Block Grant Award for 2018. And we have received those awards in all previous years as well. But I didn't see a line item of revenue on the budget anywhere for this year or for any of the previous years for this grant receipt, this grant revenue. How is that handled?
There is normally a block amount, and there is a hearing that takes place prior to CDBG applications being forwarded to HUD. That's open to the public. There are different needs that are addressed in that CDBG application, and then it's forwarded to HUD. Tom, do you have?
I think the question you're asking is how is it treated from an auditing and an accounting standpoint.
On the budget, on the Gloucester Township
Total
budget.
amount.
It's not part of the general fund. It's actually a trust fund. I don't know if that's a dedicated rider. I don't believe it is, but I think as a federal grant, it runs through a trust fund, so it goes outside of the general fund and the general tax levy. So you will not see that as part of our general fund budget.
So we have other trusts.
Because it's continuously being replenished,
Right.
and monies don't always get expended in a particular year that the allotment came.
Right.
That's what I would call an
understand.
entitlement grant.
Like we handle the open space, the same way, except that
It's
tax
different.
revenue, that's a little different because there's
Yeah, it's
taxation.
different, but it's similar.
So all trust funds are handled the way you just explained,
Correct.
outside
You
the
would-
budget.
You would not see that under the general.
I would see what those are on the audited financial statements, though. I
They
would
would
see
be
that.
included in the audit.
Another question, I have questions about some of the budget revenues. One of them is a line item on revenue tax abatement in lieu of billing. We have $1,400,000 budgeted for this year as tax abatement in lieu of billing. Last year, 2017, we had $800,000 budgeted, but had actual receipts of $934,000 of tax abatement in lieu of billing. And my question is, like, for example, last year, we should know right to the dollar what this amount is right now. We should know what the 2018 dollar amount is right now, right to the dollar. Should we not?
Well, we bill for that, and a lot of times we do not collect everything that we bill on those. Some of the smaller ones are delinquent on those payments, so that then the assessor has to go back and threaten to remove the abatement. I think Mr. Carlinger is familiar with some of those situations where we've had some problems collecting those. So we try not to go to the exact amount that we would be entitled to, but in this particular instance, the amount that has substantially increased the revenue for the abatements is due to the outlets.
Yeah, the step up in the years, yeah. So that 1.4 million in the budget is your estimate of net of tax abatement in lieu of billing, net of uncollected.
Right, and so let's say
Your
that
estimate, yeah.
we collect 1.5 million instead of 1.4 million, the additional monies would go into miscellaneous revenue not anticipated.
Yeah, my question was more, you have the 1.4 million in the budget, but if we would add up every dollar of what you receive if it was all collected, it would be a couple $100,000 higher than that is.
No, I would say it's not. No, I would say maybe 50,000. Again, if you collected that, if you fall short though, you have to make that revenue up in another location.
Okay. Another revenue question. The Gloucester Township Police Department seems, I don't see revenue for the SRO, the $600,000 SRO, the amount that is collected every year. I don't see that as in the revenue budget anywhere.
Correct.
Where is that?
Because what we do is we take that amount off of the total salary budget for the police salaries. So that's an adjustment to the appropriation, same as we do with contributions for health insurance. And that's pretty much dictated by the state. So any monies that we collect under Chapter 78 get deducted from the, in our case, we're self-funded, but from the premium calculations. So you are permitted to reduce the appropriation by that amount and not anticipate that in the budget.
Are there, in that line item, in the police department salary line item where we book the revenue credit for SRO, are there any other revenues?
Yeah, in
Assuming-
fact, interestingly enough, the one that we anticipated tonight, because we get that every year, the $90,000, I believe that was for the Safe and Secure Neighborhood Program. When we construct our operating budget, we put that in there as a reduction to the appropriations. It just seems to come in after the budget process starts. We can't formally accept it. You still have to formally accept it as a grant. We can't formally accept it until we get the grant agreement and all that comes in, and it seems to come in after the budget process is completed.
Well, that particular one is shown as a revenue line item on the budget. It's not as a grant revenue.
No.
No, that's
it's
an
not.
offset also?
No,
Okay.
it's an offset.
What about other police department revenues such as traffic control and
No, I
business
don't-
security and things like that?
I want to say it's just the SRO officers and the $90,000 for safe and secure. I cannot think of any other line item that would offset the total appropriations.
Okay. Doesn't, during the course of a year, the police department receive payment from construction companies and such for traffic control at construction sites, or from?
We do, but again, they're being paid also by the township, so when that money comes in, it goes to offset the amount that they
Yeah,
receive.
but you didn't budget for any of that, was my question.
No, because it's treated as what's called a return to appropriations. So you're permitted to, what we do is we set up a receivable. So if an officer works, I don't know the rate that they're paid for that, but there's a special rate under the contract for outside work. There's a lesser rate that is paid by, for example, the schools for security at football games and things of that nature. But there's a higher rate that we charge when a construction company comes in town, and we'll set up that receivable. When that money comes in and is collected, then it goes to offset that cost.
Okay.
You would never know what that's going to be because
No, but you know it's going to be something. You know it's not going to be zero, so you could budget.
no, that's why we offset it dollar for dollar based on the actual work. The work they did.
Okay, one more revenue question. Question was asked at a previous meeting about this, when the Favorites Lounge was opened 4 years ago, that there was advertised that there was an agreement that 1% of Favorites revenues or profits were coming back to the township. Has that question been answered? That was asked a few meetings ago.
I have gone through the files and can't find any information in the file that I had access, my file, that reflected that.
There was media articles at the time, and in those articles there were direct quotes from the mayor. Quote, "We receive 1% net profits from when this lounge opens." End quote. David Mayer. So this wasn't just a.
I'll see if I can get into whatever files the clerks have, but in my notes of mine, it was retrieved. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I've never seen an agreement on that.
There's more than one media outlet too that reported that, so it's something was misreported or something. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Polidoro? After he's done, Carolyn.
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro. Ariel.
Good evening.
First and foremost, belated Happy Mother's Day to Moms on Council and all the ladies in the room. I want to understand, we received a grant for affordable housing from the state. Cherry Hill received a chunk, we received a little less than that. I want to understand how a grant for affordable housing, the monies from that works out with the township. So we get that money from the state for affordable housing. Where does it go? What does it do once we get that? Is it direct? Is it something we receive? And what was it, around 289,000?
I'm confused there. I don't recall affordable housing monies coming in the form of grant.
It's talking about CDBG money.
Oh, you
Right.
saw
And with that money that's used, there's money that's used for counseling. There's money that's used for home repairs.
correct.
There's money that's used for part of that CDBG money. Trying to think what else we've used. Economic development
Bus driver.
in downtown Blackwood. So there's a combination of things that are used to that grant. That's line item. When they go through the CDBG application, there's a public hearing for it. So when I read the article, you read the article, it seems like $289,000 was given to the town to build affordable housing, or to go towards folks with affordable housing. And that is somewhat incorrect.
So theoretically, it is for existing affordable housing, upkeep, maintenance,
It could supplement that, yes.
and doesn't specifically go to, can it go to new affordable housing? New design?
It wouldn't go
Right.
far.
Yeah.
The 289 grand. Yeah, Tom?
There's actually a backlog of applications for these monies. They have to be in specific areas that qualify, that are established by the federal government under the Community Development Block Grant Program, and then those individuals have to meet certain income requirements. Then my understanding, Mr. Cormier, please correct me if I'm wrong, a lien is placed against the property, so that if at a future date that property sells, those monies that were granted through the CDBG program are returned to the program and treated as program income.
Okay. Another follow-up on a question that we spoke of, I believe Mr. Carlemere had addressed this. Have we moved any farther forward in fulfilling our affordable housing numbers set by the state by utilizing the individual homes that are now vacant or we could acquire, besides the projects that we're looking at in the 11 separate homes? Have we moved forward any farther on the procurement of affordable homes throughout the township in the great number of vacancies that we have?
Part of the township's settlement number, currently there's 154 units proposed to be part of the market to affordable or abandoned property acquisition that the township is saying as part of this proposal, that they'll utilize that market to affordable or abandoned properties. Market to affordable has various elements. One is apartments negotiated, and the other one is abandoned properties through the statute law in the state of New Jersey. So there's an element there requiring 154 units between now and 2025.
Okay. But basically, rather than concentrate it, we can still find homes of the affordable nature throughout the town, and we're doing something in that direction.
Part of our plan was a lengthy discussion when we were before the court on the 9th of how the township is proceeding with that, and there are tracking mechanisms that are part of our settlement process that gives the court an opportunity to monitor that we're reaching our numbers.
Okay. And just follow up on the conversation previous with the electricity spikes. Just a thought in mind that sometimes when you get on a budget, or they have a set, sometimes you don't need to sign up for a budget, you're on a budget. Over a certain period of time, 12 months, 24 months, on that budget, you may have some higher months. And at some point, I believe the electric company does say, we've got a catch-up period from the budget, and you get that spike from the offset that has risen above within the parameters of the budget. Years ago, I remember seeing some bills that had been set forth that all of a sudden shot up. We never signed up for a budget, but that may be something to consider when looking at this situation with the electric companies. Whether budget or not, part of the aggregate or not through the electric company, it just may be that offset of many, many months of budget. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you.
Since we've had over 40 homes, originally in Brittany that was abandoned, and now we're down to like about 10. When will we be reassessed in our community as far as the value of our homes?
Our last reassessment for the township was in 2009, 2010. We're required to have a reassessment throughout the township every 10 years. The reassessment prior to that was about 15 years earlier than that. Okay. So when the Camden County Division of Board of Taxation, they will contact the municipality and say, now's your time to do a reassessment. Okay. When that reassessment takes place, that's over a course of 2 to 3 years. The amount that we incur, $3 to $4 million that the township has to take on, and in order to provide that assessment for the entire township. So there are some folks that look forward to reassessment. There's some folks that don't like.
I know they don't. I know. I was the last council meeting. We were here for a little while. So, but I just wanted to.
Everybody should have stayed the whole time.
We had a meeting to go to, so we had to leave.
At 10 o'clock at night?
No, it was 8:30. We left at 8:30.
8:30?
Yes, we did. I just want to thank Councilwoman Stubbs, because I just came up with an idea from what you said. So I'm going to invite them to National Night Out. See if I could get them there to do a winterization program or something for. So we're going to do resource tables for our National Night Out.
I'll make a call, maybe,
Can you do that?
Make a call and see what we can do.
We could probably get their government liaison.
Good. Thank you.
To reach out to them for it.
Thank you. We appreciate that. That's it. Thank you. Have a great night.
Anyone else? With that, we close the second public portion. Calling the directors.
Mr. Lechner?
I have nothing to report, thank you.
Chief Earl?
Yes, Blake, thank Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, Council. I just wanted to give you some correct crime stat numbers I thought would be important to follow up
I
with.
thought those numbers were a little off, but go ahead.
So I say approximately only because 2016, 2017 are not yet verified by New Jersey State Police, but I say in confidence very close. So a 30% decrease from 2010 through 2017 in overall crime, and violent crime during that same time period decreased 62%. And juvenile recidivism decreased 50% during that, first-time offender recidivism decreased 50% during that time. What's interesting as well is our total arrests during that same time period decreased by 5%. And officers being assaulted during arrest dropped 46%. I just say that because here we're decreasing crime dramatically, but yet making less arrests and less officers assaulted. So there's kind of an interesting phenomenon there, which I credit to because we're doing other things besides arrest to reduce crime. Save Advocate, Family Resource Center, addressing social issues, which we can't say of course works, but there seems to be some parallel there. In the 2018 that he mentioned, I assure you with the absolute most confidence, we do not lead New Jersey in manslaughter. I'm very confident to say that. And that we hold weekly meetings about crime, and then we compare every month to an overall crime report looking for any kind of spike comparing to the previous 2 years. There is no spike for 2018, and if there were, it would be addressed in the weekly crime meeting to address those spots. So just wanted to share that with you. And everything that I do, including comparative to other towns that surround us and borders, I do for the Citizens Police Academy myself at a lesson all about crime at our Citizens Police Academy, which we'll be celebrating that, finishing that session soon. Thank you.
Chief, now, if that gentleman does return for our workshop, I'll make sure to invite you to our workshop meeting.
Please, he's met with some community relation folks, and I will just say that I don't think some of his information was well received by community relations at this point so far.
And before you leave, this past Friday, the chief was honored by Camden County College for the 50th anniversary of their commencement ceremony as a distinguished alumnus. So congratulations, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Carlemere?
Just for the benefit of council, contrary to the comments, I assure all council members that if any resident calls me, I return phone calls. Nothing else.
Mr. Cardis?
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Hutchison?
Thank you very much for coming.
Mr. Owens?
Thanks for coming out, and I just want to call out all the Gloucester Township residents that are graduating from college or university this month. We are proud of them all. And all the first responders and the Gloucester Township Police Department, thanks for serving us.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Thank you for coming out, everyone. Your interest is always important in our community. Thank you.
Mrs. Winters?
I have a couple things. So GTHA hosted their tournament last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, and 3 teams did win the national championships, and the national tournament will be in Gloucester Township again next year. Just a comment with the bike path and the, what's it called, the bike rentals that are there, the bike program. I live on the bike path, and I can tell you those bikes are used constantly, to the point that my husband and my children have all just said to me at various times, I can't believe how much people are riding those bikes. You know, and that's at various times throughout the day, during the week and on the weekends. I don't know if the racks are empty over there, but it sure feels like it when you go by my house. And Blackwood Lake Advisory Committee held an event last week to, I guess, coordinate some of the volunteer programs in the town. It was a very nice event. They had a fairly good turnout. I think I got there after the rush. But it was a very nice event. Everyone, all the different committees spoke and said, you know, the different things that they do in the community, why they're here, and what they're looking to do, and, you know, what they're supporting. So it was just a really nice event. It was nice to see all the different things that are happening in the town. Thank you.
Mr. Mignon?
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Chief Earl and Mr. Carlman, there's never a doubt what you guys said, your comments. Also, I want to say, I know the turf fields have came up quite a few times in some of these meetings. But this past Saturday, we had a lot of rain Friday night into Saturday morning. And I have a lot of friends that play in a lot of tournaments throughout the New Jersey state that were canceled. I just want to let you know that 31 Field of Dream, Gloucester Township Field of Dream players had their game because they were playing on turf. Thank you all. Have a great week. See you in 2 weeks.
Mrs. Trotta.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Mr. Mercado.
Just a reminder, we have Memorial Day services here in Veterans Park at 11 o'clock, but we also start at 8 o'clock in the morning going to different memorials throughout the township. We have wreath-laying ceremonies that run from 8 o'clock to 10:20, and then 11 o'clock here at Veterans Memorial Park. The bikes, I was talking to Mignon yesterday, I saw a bike in a part of town that was way far away from the bike path, but I guess they got an app and, it tracks it, but, so yes, those bikes are being used. And this Thursday is the Gloucester Township Economic Development Breakfast at the Palace at 8:30. It's a free event. You have an opportunity to find out what is happening in our town on the business level. There's be businesses honored for their contributions to our community, and there's individuals from state agencies and local business owners that are there as well, mingling with the crowd with tables. So if you can make it, feel free. It's at 8:30 at the Palace in downtown Blackwood. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor? Have a great evening.
I saw a print tonight.